Hello, my name is Andy, and you're watching Making Money with Guitars, the show that I hope inspires you to choose a career in guitars, or if you have a career in guitars already, maybe you can learn something new. Maybe you could build guitars, just like today's guest. Today's guest is, unbelievably for me, Ron Thorn, the Principal Master Builder at Fender. Yeah, it's quite a big deal for me to talk to Ron, but you wouldn't guess that from talking to him because he's such a genuine, nice, natural dude, and I know he's a hero for many of us. So I'll stop talking and continue talking, but with Ron. Okay, let's go to the chat.
Andy, how are you, sir? Great to see you again.
Good to see you. It is
first time
hot.
we met.
Yeah, first time today.
In Germany.
Yeah,
first time, but the first time we met was in Germany. That was fun.
Yeah, I remember just walking around the tent and there was all these guitars and people setting up. I turned around and there was you. And oh, okay, there's Ron Thorn. Yeah.
That was fun. I didn't quite understand what that event was. They sent me and I thought it was sort of like a mini NAMM type of thing. And then you were the first guy I actually spoke with. I'm like, oh, that was it? We didn't even really talk about the guitars or anything. So that was good. That was a nice icebreaker for me. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I remember explaining to you, and to be honest, we didn't know what we were doing either, you know. But
perfect.
There were cameras, there were guitar players and guitar builders and pedal things, and that's all you really need. And the rest we made up and entertained people, I hope.
Very good. Indeed.
But yeah, so welcome to the series, and thank you for joining me on Making Money with Guitars. And I guess you quite literally make money by making guitars.
That's how I've earned my living for a while now. Yeah, absolutely.
To just clear up, in case anyone has been under a rock, you are a master builder at Fender, and I've got to mention first the Meteora. That's really hot in the news at the moment. But I am so obsessed with the Meteora, and you've just gone and built a master built one.
Yes. Now that was an order. The music store in Ottawa, Canada, ordered it like that. So every month we get a spreadsheet of the orders that have come in. And as you can imagine, 99.9% of the time it's Strats and Teles. So as I just kind of scroll down the list, occasionally you'll see a Jazzmaster and a double take, Meteora. No way. But it was fun because we didn't, in the custom shop, we're a little bit separated from the rest of Fender. We don't have any tooling, any drawings, any templates. We don't have anything for it. So I kind of begged and pleaded the engineering department, can you just send me at least body perimeter in a CAD file? I'll take it from there because I can do the neck pocket, the neck angle, the pickups were something they hadn't done. So they sent me the perimeter and the rest was up to me, which was fun, which, it made it challenging and refreshing and different. So, and it came out pretty good. It took us a while to kind of settle into like, hey, what's that thing? It didn't stand in our racks properly, and
yeah, of course, it's on the wonk.
It's wonky for sure, but it seems to be received fairly well for the most part, and it's comfortable to play. It was the first time I'd even held one after I finished it. And I strapped it on. I'm like, wow, this hangs well. You can get right up there, and it feels good. So it was a fun build. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm truly impressed that Fender as a company is doing that, and also you have this kind of freedom. And of course we're going to talk about Fender, but I mainly want to talk about you and your story.
Sure.
But I guess anyone who's watching this who's interested in building guitars or just interested in you really wants to know how you got to be a master builder at Fender.
That's pretty good. Well, and this is my Marissa Tomei story. My grandfather was...
Entertain me. Who is Marissa Tomei?
Right. Well, you had to have seen the movie My Cousin Vinny, where...
Okay.
All right. So anybody who's seen it will get it. But my grandfather was a carpenter. My two uncles were carpenters. And my father, while not a carpenter by trade, was very mechanically inclined. And we always had a wood shop. He built all the furniture in our house, etc. So it's that kind of family. I just grew up in a woodworking family from day one, and honestly didn't know any better. I kind of assumed everybody had a wood shop in their garage or in their basement. And it wasn't until I got into junior high school and I started taking woods class, wood and metal, that I rolled in there essentially knowing how to operate all the machinery, et cetera. And my buddies are on the verge of dismembering themselves. So it was at that point I realized, this is somewhat unique. That's odd. But I was given a guitar neck by a friend, just the neck with tuners. And this was early 80s. So Van Halen, Brian May and Van Halen, those were my guys. And both essentially had built their own guitars. Not realizing the complexity of Brian's in comparison to Eddie's, but it seemed like, hey, well, if they can do it, I'll do it. So my dad and I built the body. I fabricated the bridge in metals class, and the pickguard, which originally I tried to make it out of a couple of records. I think I buggered up my dad's Ventures records collection, trying to turn them into pickguards. But I got that all done, and the only thing I needed was a pickup. So I recall walking to a music store, and I was wearing my 1981 Van Halen toured 3/4 sleeve jersey, and I get to the counter, and I said, I need a pickup. And the guy behind the counter is like, for what kind of guitar? I'm like, it's homemade. It doesn't matter. I just need a pickup. And he points at Eddie on my shirt, and he says, do you want to sound like him? And just, yes. And he slides over like a Duncan super distortioner. I don't even remember getting home to slam that into that guitar. And I think it was a custom or something. But anyway, so that was it. At that point, I had a guitar, and I think more importantly, I was on my way to making a mess of building them. So there's the genesis right there.
Wow.
In a nutshell.
So it's part of you. You are a builder. You're not just some guy that started a job doing it. It seems to have come from deep within. Yeah,
well, out of necessity initially, and then just the love of it, and then being into, and you have to kind of think of the time frame, the 80s, right? It was Floyd's and Taylor's and humbuckers slammed into everything. It was perfect. And here I am in Southern California, which, the epicenter of this style of music, being kind of the only guy that knows how to operate a router or any kind of mechanical aptitude. So I was definitely the go-to guy to do any type of repair work. It was, again, the perfect time and place to have some skills at that point. And I'm sure it was all pretty crude. If I look back at something I did back then, I would probably cringe considerably at this point now. But you can only do so much with a sharpened flathead screwdriver. Anyways.
You can do a lot, man. Yeah, you really, really can do a lot. But, so you went from like growing up with carpentry and woodwork into building your own, and then people coming to you. So was that then like were you self-employed kind of, or were you hiring yourself out, or?
Just on the side, and it wasn't a career at that point. I had actually gone to school for mechanical engineering, and in my 20s, I had a job as a mechanical engineer designing robotic packaging machinery, and just guitar repair and full guitar building on the side, and weekends and evenings was what was keeping me going until I started getting into inlay work. It seemed like the next, I was very intricate, always liked doing very tiny, intricate things, and inlay work seemed like something I might enjoy doing. So the Stumac catalog, they would sell, I think I bought 1 ounce or 2 ounces of pearl and the saw and the blades, and the book that I think was written in 1950, so very little that applied at this point in time, but I didn't know any better. So I did a fairly elaborate, the books that start with simple geometric shapes. So I did like a 450-piece Chinese dragon as my first inlay. Went for it. And it was on a neck-through guitar that I built, the whole shebang, and I spent, every day I would come home from work and just spend a couple hours cutting out just a couple little pieces of inlay and fitting it together. And it took months and months and months on end until I got this inlay done. And there again, I look at it now and it's rough, but for a first shot, it was pretty good. And a company called GMW, they're still around. And this was right at the beginning of the internet. So that still didn't even exist very much. They would run a little ad that said, "We paint guitars," in this magazine, Recycler magazine. So I drove over there with the guitar and I laid it down on the bench. And Lee Garber, who's still in the industry, he looks at it and he says, who did the inlay? I said, I did it. I built the whole thing from scratch. And he calls over Dan Lawrence, who does all our graphics still to this day. And he calls Dan over and he's like, hey, check this out. And they're like, oh, that's pretty good. 2 hours later, I left with like 24 Warmoth necks under my arm. And they wanted Tree of Lives and Egyptian hieroglyphics and all this stuff. And just like that, I'm the local inlay guy. And trial by fire, I just dove in and went for it. And right place, right time yet again for that world to take off. So I was doing that for a few years in addition to my job, and then I got my foot in the door with Fender, and you can imagine from onesies, twosies to suddenly here's 200 bass necks. So I decided to get some CNC action, so I designed and built my own CNC, which when I came on at Fender, they bought the CNC with me, so it's still here. This 26-year-old homemade CNC machine is still doing Fender inlay work to this day. Who would have thought? The best investment ever was building that machine in my kitchen. But anyways, all right. So how's that? There we go. Now I'm into the inlay world. But
all right, you're making it sound very easy.
I don't even think you've asked a question.
Yeah, how are you?
I know. This guy won't shut up. All right.
No, so you've just joined Fender. You have this this CNC machine for doing inlays, and you're doing 200 bass necks. Then what happened? So
yeah,
roughly what year was this? This must have been
mid-90s.
Mid-90s. Yeah.
95 or so was when the inlay work really started taking off, and I kept the 9-to-5 job still. Came home, worked all evenings, and worked weekends just doing inlay work. And that lasted 4 years until it was a big step for me. 29 years old, all right, I'm going to quit this 9-year-old career that I have a degree in, and I'm going to try to do this sort of artsy-fartsy career on a whim. And my thought was always, well, I could always go back. If it doesn't work out, I can find a job or maybe even get my own. Obviously, I haven't. It took off. Fender just kept slamming me with more and more inlay work. And by that time, PRS was in full swing with their Dragons and the Tree of Lives, and Martin was doing massive Tree of Lives and Schecter. And so inlay work was hot at that time, the late 90s. And not only Fender, but within 15 minutes, I had the ESP custom shop, Schecter custom shop, Ibanez custom shop. So all those Steve Vais, I got all that work. Yamaha, BC Ridge. Again, the perfect location for all these custom shops. And there's only one guy. Even at the time, there was only like 5 professional inlay artists in the country. And the fact that I'm within 10 minutes of everyone, I had it made. I had them at the palm of my hand. But yeah. So that kept me going for a long, long time, many years, many decades, just doing inlay work. And even today, I'm sure there's people that could earn a living doing it. And there is, sure.
I can't think of anything I'd want to do less than inlay work. It just seems so difficult and so focused. And my personality certainly doesn't mix with making an inlay, because I'd get distracted and then, whoops, start again.
Yeah, but yes, that is true. It's tedious, it's time consuming, and a project could last months before you get to see the end result. But then it's pretty rewarding when you do. Yeah, I mean,
I look at inlays, and I look at Tree of Life and stuff like that, and I can't imagine that someone's done it. It just seems such an art. And the way I'm thinking is that if you can do that, and you have a degree in mechanical engineering, then everything else is just a cakewalk. So it seems like you did the hard work first, the real sort of the trial.
Yeah, I guess it was a lot of work. I went for years and years working about 16 hours, 15 to 16 hours a day, 6 days a week. I had this whole routine of waking up, working, and like 8 a.m. Going to work, and then getting home just in time to put Conan O'Brien on, which at the time he was coming on at 12:30, and then passing out after the monologue. And it was for 10 plus years of nonstop, nothing but work and Conan and sleep. That was it. I'd like to think I paid my dues as far as that went.
Yeah, it certainly sounds it, man. And there's a real correlation with the people I talk to in this series about being in the right place at the right time, working hard, and knowing your stuff. But it's mainly about the fact that you have to be willing to put aside everything else. So if you're working so much, then you must have put aside a social life to a certain degree.
Yeah.
You must have put aside any other kind of hobby, and that was you're truly living for your work. Or I'm going to call it art because it truly is, and
that's pretty much
that's
it.
a
Andy.
clear thing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. At least for me and a lot of people that are in a similar position, they've really sacrificed a lot of fun to. Yeah, but granted, it was fun doing it. I never complained because it's very rewarding, and it's
sure.
When you have a passion for it, it's not really work. I say it work, but it really meant I was just doing my thing day in and day out. But yeah, it's not much social life. And really the thing that affected me the most that I regret was my playing. Because early 20s, I was right into it, gigging, had a house gig and a blues band. And now I hack my way through riffs because I haven't really sat down and played for more than 20 minutes in many a year. So that's a bummer, but can't do it all. I guess.
I'm not going to claim to be in the same boat as you, but I certainly understand the fact that when you're doing work, that the play goes out of the window. And
yeah.
But I think what you're describing is, for me, the very organic definition of work, of a calling, if you will. So there are some people I know who I'd like to be able to do this, or I'd like to do that as a career. And then there are others that I know that they are just doing it. And I'm not going to name this person, but I was speaking to someone about a year ago, and he came to me for some reason, maybe he was half drunk. And he said, Andy, I need some advice on, I want to be a songwriter. I've got these songs in my head. I want to do this. I want to release these songs. I want to be a rock star. I want to do it. And I said, okay, where are the songs? He said, they're in my head. I said, so you don't have any songs? And it sounds more romantic than it was. But really, I just said to him, look, until you've got something there, until you're doing it, then this conversation, although it's nice, is pointless.
Mm-hmm.
And then, about a few months ago, he released an EP, and it's absolutely phenomenal.
All right.
And now he's taking these steps, talking to people that actually can help him, and help him pursue that career in a more definite way. And I think what I'm taking from what you're telling me is you just happen to be doing the thing that you were doing, and then doors open, rather than investing time and energy in finding how to open a door.
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
To take that metaphor further, it's
no, that's exactly right.
Do you think it's easier now or harder now, like in the more modern world in 2020?
To pick a career, or
for you, if you were now young Ron and you were just doing your thing, I know we're talking right place, right time, but are those right places, right time still available?
Absolutely. I feel they're still available for sure. And the learning curve, especially with YouTube and that would have, that book, I mentioned that book from the 50s. Now that I know what I'm doing, I realize very little of it applies. And they still sell it too. That's what's crazy. But I know Larry Robinson, who's an Inlay guy. He made some videos a while back. And on YouTube, there's lots of footage of guys showing you how to do it. So the learning curve would have been a lot quicker if I had chosen that to really pursue it heavily. I think I would have chopped down a couple years worth of figuring things out. That's one advantage for sure. And that could probably apply to essentially anything, be it music, any career, any type of job. So there's that advantage, but it's difficult for me to think about some other potential. But if I rolled onto the scene right now, being able to do inlay work, I could probably land very similar jobs in any company that's around here. So at least in this industry, there's lots of opportunity. In guitar building, believe it or not, we have a little bit of difficulty finding skilled talent here at Fender. it's a little disheartening, I have to say, as being the age I'm 50 years old right now. So I think there was so many kids, and when I say kids, I mean, a 20-year-old that was so into guitar building when I was 20. It was a lot of us. Whereas now we're having difficulty finding people that either have some skill, they may have the passion, but they don't have any skills. And that could probably come down to there's no shop classes in high schools these days. Maybe the generations have gone. I mentioned my 2 generations of carpentry. Is that still a thing? I don't know. Is there kids these days that their fathers are crafty and handy? I'd like to think so, but we struggle with finding talent, skilled talent already. It's a little depressing, but I have taken that as my part of my job here. I'm the principal master builder, is not just building guitars, but also teaching, which I've started we changed the names a few times, but it's the Guitar Building Academy at this point now. And I've handed it off to Chris Fleming, myself and my assistant, Steve Mather. We wrote the curriculum. We handed it off to Chris Fleming, and we're going to take some of existing employees and just start with, here's a tree, here's how you cut it, all the way to here's how you close the case and latch it and ship it off. Yeah, because it doesn't seem like there's a lot of opportunity for people to learn that here. They kind of get stuck in one position or in one department. And even though they want to learn more, they live in an apartment, they don't have access to tools or machinery. So we'll provide that to them. So instead of trying to find skilled labor, we'll create them here and teach them here, which is very rewarding and inspiring for these guys that are doing this for years. And here's an opportunity to grow and increase their skill level. So that's working out really well. Everybody's enthusiastic and big on it, because we could keep trying to hire other boutique builders, but that's not fair to guys that have been here for a long time. That would be depressing.
Yeah, I think when you're working hard doing I don't want to say the dirty jobs, because I'm sure I know I've been to the factory and I've been to the custom shop, so I've seen where you guys work, and it is a job. So there is this hugely romantic side to guitar building, where I'm sure people are dreaming about, walking around and maybe playing a guitar and maybe, look at this one from 1960 and then, okay, I'll build a guitar today. And I know that it's not like that. I know it's a job. And it's so great that you are promoting with it. In fact, when I came to Corona in 2019, I think I met someone who had just been moved up, and he had the biggest smile, and you could see he was sweating through passion more than work. He was in the zone, and he was so happy to talk to me, and he was working and covered in sawdust, and he was genuinely so happy. So whatever you're doing or have been doing, I've seen it firsthand, the effect it has on someone. And then when it affects that
excellent.
one person, it spreads, just like misery, happiness spreads. And the fact that you guys are doing that from within is extremely admirable and something that people need to know more about. So Fender needs to really make sure that people are being told that this is happening.
Thank you. Well, certainly isn't the goal, is spreading that information. No, but it has gone a long way here. It has brought some new life into a lot of people's, that they felt like it was a dead end gig, and now, hey, check it out. Try this, and they're learning that they're really good at things that they weren't doing originally. They may be doing the fretwork, and now, hey, try the relicking, and wow, you're good at that. Let's keep you over here for a while and give that a shot. Or the woodworking. We've got some guys that are amazing sanders, really, really talented sanders. And there's a few there. They were carpenters in previous careers. And so they're amazing. And I was like, hey, try pressing in some frets. You've never done it. Here, sit down and let's try this for a while. And one guy in particular ended up being amazing. And now he's fretting all the team built necks. And he's a great carpenter, but now he's fretting for the last few months, and he's excellent at it. So you never know what you're going to discover, hidden talents that you're going to have here, which they wouldn't have had the opportunity prior to. They just would have been sanders for forever, potentially.
Sure. I'm sure I do enjoy a good sanding session, but it can get monotonous.
Yeah.
And it can get. I've seen the sanders there; they just fly around this body like, whoa, that's awesome. It's like they're not even looking. Sometimes it's really quite magical.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of good talent there for sure.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's good. I'm going back to when I was at the Fender factory, and it was a really good time. So thank you for taking me back there up here.
Sure. Yeah. The general attitude here is great. And there's so many guys that are guitar players. They love the fact that they're playing a part in building a guitar that they know is going to inspire somebody else down the line. That has got to be extremely rewarding. Think about it. There isn't a whole lot of careers or products that you can make that the end recipient is just going to potentially cherish and love and dedicate huge chunks of time on playing and creating and what have you. There isn't a lot of products. I can't think of too many that really would induce that thought. I don't know.
I'm trying to think of something funny, but I'm too emotional.
I know. I was thinking like maybe like a shaker, a mixer shaker for like a bartender, but
I think actually tools. I have I also grew up with, my father is not a carpenter, but a certainly do everything guy. So if something would break, he would fix it. We had a wood shop with too many tools, if anything, and he still has it now. And now he's retired. He's like, I'm going to spend all my time in here, and he does, but he just cleans it all day because it has to be clean.
The laboratory.
Yeah,
that's great.
So I didn't grow up as a carpenter, but certainly as someone who did the holding whilst my dad would do the important stuff. So I was always watching.
Nice.
And I was never a very practical kind of young man. And then I moved around Europe and lived in various places and had so many different types of jobs that I suddenly realized that I could do things. I had to earn money somewhere. Well, I can do that, and I can do that. And there's a certain element of my story where I just said, I can do that. And I had confidence that I might be able to do it whilst no one's watching and figure it out. But also, I meet lots of people who have this attitude where I can do, and to do that with instruments is something phenomenal because it takes a certain level, certainly skill, but also passion and the desire for someone to want to play that instrument. And that's what I love about guitars, is that I like to see it as a sort of all the parts together, So when you're setting up a bridge on a Strat and, your action's not right or your intonation's that, you go, okay, I know what to tweak. I know what to do. And for me, I almost get more pleasure from that than I do playing it. The intricacy, the accuracy.
There you go.
And
wow, that's great. Yeah, maybe to send in a resume.
Yeah, I'd like to do inlay work, please, Ron.
There you go. That's a great background on you, and good for your dad too. Well done on helping you out, or maybe not even intentionally inspiring you and giving you
definitely
that
not intentionally.
Set.
He is a terrible teacher. My dad is the worst teacher I've ever met. He's obviously, I love my dad, and it's his birthday today. I must mention.
Happy birthday, Pops.
Yeah, he's having a rest probably. But he was terrible. Hold that, do this, do that. But I learned other skills from that guy. So there you go. I always wanted to hold the tool, and now I'm the dad. I've got the tools.
Wait, what? No. You may not want to use that line often, but
no, I meant my son is 3 years old and he has a screwdriver. That's what he wanted for his birthday.
Wow, starting him young. There you go.
He has his own guitar. He has a little mini a Lug guitar, they're called, with 3 strings, tuned to the E, B, and G. And he plugs it in. It's got a Telecaster pickup. He plugs it into this there's a Boss Katana Air over there, and he's got the wireless unit. Plugs it in, tunes it. Gets his screwdriver. Oh, this is not right, Dad. I'm like, okay, well, fix it.
Adjust the intonation.
Yeah.
Good for him. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. But
there you go. Hand it down the next generation.
Yeah, I mean, he actually might do something with that. I was kind of missed, I was too busy playing the guitar and hanging out in bars and stuff. But
sometimes it skips a generation, but
sometimes
he'll make up for you. There you go.
Yeah. Damn it.
That's very good.
Well, I'm very happy with what I'm doing.
I bet.
So to talk to the people that are watching this video, because obviously they know your name, they know what a master builder is. I'm going to say that wrong again at Fender. I hope that the people watching this are understanding that you, Ron, are not just some guy who applied for a job and got the job. You know, the job kind of came to you, if anything.
This is, wow. I'm almost a little embarrassed to say this, but I'll tell the story anyways. All right. So one, I became working with the custom shop, the master builders, namely, doing their inlay work since the mid 90s. So I befriended a lot of them. Steven Stern is a good friend. Red Dave. I mean, I've got good friends that are master builders while I was a vendor for Fender all these years. And at the same time, I have a lot of friends in the industry, a lot of peers. And one of them reached out to me one day. I'm going to sound horrible for this. He reached out and he said, "Hey, would you write a letter of recommendation for me? I'm applying as master builder at Fender." And I said, "Oh yeah, absolutely. You're a great builder. I'll be more than happy to do it. Who should I send it to?" "Chris Fleming." "Okay." Chris and I go way back. No problem. In fact, I own a couple Chris Fleming master build guitars. So cool. We're buddies. I type up the email and I fire it off. And 15 minutes later, Chris calls me and he says, "Hey, I got the letter. That's great. Why aren't you applying for the job?" And I said, "Oh, well, one, I didn't even know. Two, I've kind of got my own thing going here, as you know." "Well, you got to think about it." So I didn't say, I think I said, "Nah," and then I didn't, maybe. And I thought about it. And I didn't even have a resume. It was the worst, the middle of anything. Like, "Here, I'm Ron Thorn. I don't know, maybe. And so they called me in, and little did I know was all the master builders, when my name got thrown out, they were all, "Yep, stop looking. Let's get Ron in." Because one, we know what he can do. We're super comfortable with him. We know his personality, which is a big thing when you're working with a small group of artists that have been this team for so long. To interject a complete stranger, that's a crapshoot. So the fact that they were all friendly, we knew each other, that whole routine was obviously to my benefit. And I came in and interviewed, which really was just a lot of like, hey, hugging and hey, how's it going? That kind of a thing. But the one gentleman I had never met, Mike Lewis, I had to interview with him. And I met him and we turned the corner and we walked down the hall, and hanging in the hallway, you've seen it, there's multiple guitars down the main entranceway.
Yeah.
The first guitar I see is the very first inlay neck I ever did for Fender. And I had never seen the guitar completed. All I saw was the neck, and I sent it back to them. So this is going back 20 some odd years. And there's this completed guitar. And I just stopped. I said, I can't believe it. Look at, this is the first thing I did for you guys in the mid 90s. I said, look, there's my initials right there. And I swear I started crying. And he's just looking at me like, what? Like, yeah, I've never seen this as a complete, like, this is, and here I am applying. I mean, it was just, and right there, he was, all right, you're in. He had no choice but to sign me up after that one. So that's how I got the gig. And then I had to make the phone call to my buddy.
Oh, no.
He had a great gig. Granted, he wasn't out on the streets or anything. He had a great job, which he still has. So I didn't feel like I'm still not completely comfortable. And he was super cool about it until I asked, are you dating anyone too that maybe you could hook me up?
You, sir, are a monster.
Horrible. Anyways, we're still good friends.
Good.
And at the first opportunity, I'll get him in here if he wants to. But he's doing all right. He's in the industry, and he's got a really, really good job. So I don't feel that bad. Oh, man. Horrible.
Yeah, but it's not horrible, but it could have been. I think I really want to touch on what you said about personality, because obviously from talking to you now, and for people watching this video, they can tell you're not just some dude who takes a paycheck and is really good at doing the thing he does. I think your personality and the personality of people that I've spoken to who are at the same level as you in their respective fields, the good ones, the ones that stand out, are the ones that are just cool people and nice people and people you want to go to work with. And would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Not only the other 11 guys now, there's 12 master builders, so the other guys are great, but my cubicle is right next to Paul Waller's, and he is so fun to work next to. And it's not like we're shoulder to shoulder, but I can hear him, and then we pass each other, and he's just a blast to hang around. So having a group of regular guys that we don't even realize it. And it's funny you say that, because I remember going to the NAMM show once, and remember Fender's up on the 3rd floor, and I came up an escalator, and there was maybe 7 or 8 master builders all standing around right there. And I said, you guys are like the Luxor. There should be a beam of light coming out of this group. And they all just kind of look at me like, what are you talking about? I'm like, look at you guys. There you go. And now, kind of in that circle, and it was just like, if anybody came up to me, I was like, nah, dude, just knock it out. But even then, I realized, like, yet here they are, just a bunch of characters, a bunch of hooligans. So I agree with you on that. There's nothing special. We just work hard. We're half decent at what we do, and we don't have attitudes or I don't know. We're just definitely regular guys, I like to think.
I might use the word misfit, if I may, because you
sure.
seem to. Like, I've been in groups of friends that I miss dearly, where we fitted together so well, and the things that we produced in those times were astronomical, but put us in another situation, and we weren't so productive. It's almost a necessity for me.
That's exactly right. That was my biggest concern coming here too. Was not. I was fine with my skill set. I knew I could do all right with the building. It was being self-employed for 20 years, even though I had a couple employees. For the most part, I worked alone a lot. How was I going to deal with working in a factory with other people? And I had to sort of change my attitude a little bit. I had to be aware of that. I'm like, oh, okay, these people, I've got to respect everybody, because I can get a little hot-blooded and tempered. And I remember kind of freaking out, and then everybody kind of looking at me in my first month, and I was like, oh, that's not normal, because I used to freak out a lot in my own office. But that was my biggest concern is, wow, I'm going to tick off some people, or people are going to tick off me. But that hasn't been the case, luckily. I've kind of gotten a handle on it and controlled. But it really didn't take much, because everybody is great. But I was more concerned working with other people than anything else. So,
sure. Well,
yes.
There must be heated moments, because there must be pressure. There must be artistic choices you're making. But everybody fights,
Yeah.
everybody argues, and it's almost
Right.
healthy,
Yeah.
The important part is what you do. Can you open the next door and say, right, that's done with, let's move on?
That's right. Don't hold a grudge for too long.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Live and learn. Yeah. Very good.
But don't get walked over also. There's a fine line, talking from experience.
Good point.
Yeah. No, I just a few regret, not now, but in previous jobs where I just backed down, and I wish that I'd, put my opinion forward a little bit more. And I was always afraid of offending someone. And now I realize that people actually respect you for putting something on the table and saying, that's what I believe. And then even if it comes out and your opinion wasn't the one they went for, at least you've stated it. And then it would help me understand somebody else's point of view. It's all about teamwork, man.
That's it. And I think that's part of just experience in life. You figure these things out. Don't regret. Just kind of learn from it, and grow from it, and experience the experience.
I'm trying to think of things, because obviously when I release this video, people are going to say, wow, you had Ron on, why didn't you ask him this? There's going to be a whole list of those, and they're going to be very specific questions. And they're going to be like, what's your biggest tip in cutting a neck pocket or whatever, So we're not going to go into that today. This is not a luthier class. It's more, if anything, it's a personality. So far, we've achieved everything and more that I wanted to achieve by talking with you.
All right. Well, that was easy.
No, you're not free yet. But
All right.
I hope that people watching again are understanding that it's your attitude that has seemed to have got you where you are. So I know life is difficult. I know life is hard, but sometimes you just need to smile and get on with it. And then suddenly a door opens. Definitely.
Yeah. I was very fortunate. Right place, right time. That we've mentioned that a few times. I was very fortunate in how things happened, where I was located. But again, a lot of hard work. That I couldn't have gotten there just because I lived within 20 minutes of Schecter Guitars. It was a lot of hard work, but being into it and passionate and just putting some effort into it, and that thusly becoming a career that I'm still knee deep into.
What's the thing that you love most about your career?
The craftsmanship, the fiddly stuff, doing stuff. I'm so into it. In fact, yesterday I worked, and well, this will be a combination. And I'm not overly hung up on working on artist guitars. And with the Inlay thing, there was a span where every month's issue of Guitar World and Guitar Player, and they had, especially when Korn was big and those guys, every month there was an artist holding a guitar that I had inlaid. And I was really stoked in the beginning, and then it kind of settled down. It was in abundance. But I'm working on 2 guitars right now for Adrian Belew, and I'm a huge Adrian Belew fan. I'm like a super nerd to the point where I'm sure I've embarrassed myself in talking to him multiple times, but the guitars are kicking my butt. It's got sustainer. I realized I wired the bridge pickup out of phase yesterday. And of course, after you get it all strung up and the sustainer's got so much going on, and it took me a long time. It has a Vega trem on it, which I'm still figuring out the spring combination of that. An LSR nut. It's just so out there in comparison to the things I've been doing right now. It was literally 3/4 of yesterday working on them, and I loved it. Even though it's kicking my butt, I just love it, and I can't wait to get back in there and finish it off. And I'm sending them pictures the whole time, and that is amazing. But Sustainer's got a lot of wires. There's a lot going on. It's a rat nest in there. But I love it. It's fun to do. So the craftsmanship and the intricacy and the little details, and I don't know, I just thrive on that. It's a blast. And the fact that it's for Adrian Belew, yeah, that's cool. But even if it wasn't, I would be digging it. But the fact that it's going to be
yeah.
I know. And I'm cranking the Lone Rhino the whole time I'm working on it. Like, yeah, and then I got the sustainer going, and I'm like, woo! Guys in the shop are just like, what the hell? Woo! Yeah. It was a fun day. So that's very rewarding and a blast to do. Come on, who wouldn't want to be doing that?
I don't know. Well, I can tell you I wouldn't want to be doing the inlays on that, but apart from that, I'd be very happy doing the wheels and the sustainer.
Yeah, there you go.
You don't sound like someone who's going to rest and sit on his laurels and then watch Conan forever, now that you can. So how are you keeping this level of positive pressure on yourself? What are you planning?
Oh, there is always something, be it, and this is one of the great things about my gig is the opportunity to create hardware, new models, new lineups. I got invited into a lineup that we're going to be debuting in a couple of years. So I'm working with a very small team on coming up with some new models, which different, not in the sense that they're wacky shapes and stuff, but just built differently. And that has been very rewarding. I've got some CNC experience, so I worked on a thing called the Gatling gun. It's a 4th axis rotary. It's a way to machine a neck that we don't do here. We've never done here. So that was rewarding. And now we're doing things that we weren't. It was a little more difficult for us to do compound radiuses and stuff. So that's fun. There's so many examples really of just things that I enjoy doing. I don't even know what's next. But every day it seems like there's something that pops up that I can be a part of that.
I've got to be very careful what I say about Fender because as my job, I have to be quite, on the fence about everybody. I have to be fair, but it's very well known that I'm a huge fan of Fender as a player. I just grew up wanting the big F and the big G, as everybody does.
Yeah.
And I found myself playing Fenders more, and I got a Telecaster in the 90s that I now know has a super thin neck, and it's completely the wrong guitar for me because I have these big things. And since then, I've picked up a custom shop Tele that's got this super 1056 neck on it that I love telling this story, but I was at Thomann one day shooting a video, waiting for Chris to come in, and he was doing something amazing. So I was sat there waiting, and I just stuck my hand out and picked up the guitar that was nearest to me, and I decided to buy it as I rested my hand on it. It's here, and there it is there, and I just did that. Okay, that's the best guitar I've ever felt in my life.
Wow, isn't that great?
I bought it without even plugging it in. It wasn't as simple. I didn't then just take it to the desk and say, here's my money. I bought a Baja Tele to try and recreate that sort of thick-ish neck.
Yeah.
And it's Relic, so it's not too shiny on the back, and it's it's nice and played in. I bought a very cheap parts caster that also had a super big neck, and nothing ever took me back to this guitar. And
wow.
I've gone off on a tangent here about my guitar, but that's why I do what I do. But this guitar is just superb. And a friend borrowed it and didn't give it back for much longer than he should have kept it. And then bought his own. He searched the specs. I sent is it the Traveler sheet you call it?
Yeah.
I sent that to a few guys. Yeah, Floor Traveler. And then luckily one came up after, I think, 4 months of searching for this exact spec of just the neck. Everything else was negotiable.
Wow. That's amazing. And that is part of the fun of running the rack, as they say, right? Running the racks and finding it. And here, it didn't take you very long. Reach over and there it is. But that has got to be very rewarding and a little bit of fate in there, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've forgotten your pickup maker's name, the lady that's replaced Abby. Josefina. Yeah, she's built these, and I met her, and I remember her being absolutely lovely and warm and hugging, and then she's built those pickups in there, and I'm like, okay, that's pretty serendipitous. And so with my instruments, the ones that I love, it's a deep connection, I know I will never be the best player, and I will never play at a level that I'd be happy with, but I love playing guitar, and that's why I do what I do. I love guitar. It's brought me so much joy in my life and so many opportunities, and to finally meet and talk to people like yourself who are partly responsible for me doing what I do, because without you guys, we wouldn't have the guitars.
Well,
it's a joy.
Tit for tat. Without you, we wouldn't have the job. So this goes exactly back to what we were saying. Look at the passion that you have. Look at how much joy and love you get out of playing something that we build. It's a great teamwork between the two of us.
Exactly, and then there's the third party. That's the audience, whoever listens.
Right. The listener.
So it goes, and I'm a big proponent of this. That the reason we buy guitars, or should, is to make someone feel something through music. Yes, it's nice to say I have a Fender custom shop or a Gibson custom shop or some prestige model, but really, if I can play a G, C, and a D chord and sing something with it, and someone feels something in here. That's why I have that guitar.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I know that talking to you, and I hope people watching this understand that the passion of people such as yourself go into this. It gives these instruments a life, an energy, a feel in deep within the wood. And I know that's super weird and nerdy and kind of out there, but I truly believe that there's an energy there. And
I agree with you. Yeah,
it's maybe a bit like Harry Potter. Are you a Harry Potter?
Not so much.
Fan, or
no. Sorry.
Go with me on this.
Sure.
When he when he chooses his wand, it's actually the wand chooses him, and there's all these wands, and he tries several, I think, and then the wand chooses him, and it's very clear that's his wand, and together they're stronger than they would be with other partners. And I think that's something similar for me with guitars and instruments, and I love hearing other people's stories about that.
That's great. I can see that. Very good. Wow. Cool.
Yeah,
there's your wand. Your magic wand.
Yeah, I'm weird. Sorry.
No,
all right.
What? Not at all.
No, it's just nice to be able to talk to someone about my guitars.
That's good. I'm all ears. I love it.
Normally, I'm talking to the camera and it doesn't talk back. So.
I got you.
I had a list of questions from some people from YouTube and from my Facebook group and from Instagram.
Cool.
And they would like to ask you. So if you sent in a question, thank you for sending a question. Some of the questions have been answered. So like your first project was the Inlay and stuff and all that. But the question that we haven't really covered yet is, what's the guitar you're most proud of? Or is there a guitar that you're most proud of?
Yes. And well, sadly, it's not a Fender yet. I still got a ways to go, but I was building Thorn guitars for many years. And I went to New York City, Manhattan, for the first time a few years ago. I actually went with Master Builder Steven Stern. The two of us went there for, it's called a road show for Gretsch Guitars. He builds for Gretsch, the Gretsch Custom Shop. And it was at Street Sound Music in Brooklyn. And so my first time going to New York, I just went as a tag along with Steven to just kind of hang out with him. But this was all his gig. I was just tagging along. And he'd been there multiple times. I never had. So he takes me on the tour. We get on the double-decker bus. We up Empire State Building, the whole thing. But the architecture, I was just in love with, especially the deco themed. And I was on the double-decker bus, and we passed a building, and just this detail work that was above the windows. I snapped a pic, and I showed it to Steve, and I said, look at this. Look at that deco design. I said, that would be a beautiful inlay design right there. And that was it. I kept it on my phone. 2 days later, I'm on the plane going home, and I just started sketching out a guitar, a lot of the detail work. And I got back home, and I built, it's a semi-hollow. It's called the Imperial. It's all decoed out. And just the inspiration of that trip and how inspired I was by the buildings and really the general attitude of New Yorkers. I went there expecting, I'm walking here, the whole attitude. And I was kind of hoping to get mugged, maybe not hurt, but just like, okay, here's my wallet. But that was kind of cool. I got the experience. But everybody was so warm. And then seeing where the memorial was, the Twin Towers, was extremely touching. So the whole experience was embodied into this instrument, and I'm very proud of it. I think it's a gorgeous guitar, and just when I see it, it brings back that event in my life, which I really love. So that one stands out above all for sure at this point. But the next Tele may come along that just really takes its place. But
I feel you. If there are photos available of the guitar, I will have overlaid that over this video just to give myself some more editing work.
Sure. All right, I'll send them to you.
Thanks, man. That's a beautiful answer. It's so nice, the depth of which that guitar speaks to you, to come from something so personal as an experience.
Didn't expect it, but when it hits,
yeah,
you better be ready with a pad and paper. Pad and paper, piece of pencil, whatever.
We'll go with it.
No
one noticed. The next question comes from a guy called Mark, and he asks, have you ever really made a mistake on a guitar really late in the process, such as cutting something you shouldn't have cut?
Yeah, of course. I had a customer in Northern California on his way down to pick up the guitar, and I was just doing some final buffing on it. So it's a 5-hour drive, and I'm just wanted it perfect, and I cooked through the clear coat, and it was a blue guitar, and I burned off some of the blue right between the pickups. And I had to call him. I'm like, I don't know where you are, but turn around, go back, which was just crushing for him because here he is. He's been waiting a year and change. I'm going to go get it. Hello? So that was a pretty big clam. I've messed up some things in the operating, especially with CNC work. I'm a one-off if I'm doing some CNC work. I call it a virgin program. I've got my finger on the start stop and I'm working it. But sometimes things move pretty fast, and I've clammed a few times, especially if I'm generating code manually. I'm cutting and pasting, and all it takes is one decimal point or a negative. That's what got me the one time I had a negative 0.5 instead of 0.5, and I just troughed a wire channel between the two pickups. But there was no pick guard or anything that was going to cover it. And it went so quick I couldn't react. And it was a lace wood top. And yeah, I remember all the clams for sure. And there's a few of them, but you try to do what you can to prevent them.
Yeah.
I haven't had too many bad ones here at Fender. This is the one thing, is the sheer quantity of guitars built here. There's a lot of guitars. So when you come from the boutique world where every piece of wood really, really counts, especially if I purchased it, and then here, and for example, African Blackwood fretboards, my cost was at Thorn Guitars was about $100 a fretboard. So I would keep maybe a half dozen of them in stock. So if somebody ordered an African Blackwood fretboard, I would pick between the 6, and that was a pretty good inventory for a small guy. Within the first couple of weeks of me coming here, I walk by a skid, a pallet, 4 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot high of all this wood stacked together. And I just stop and do a double take, like, wow, that looks like Africa. And then I see the label, African Blackwood, 750 fretboards. It's just, this is the big leagues right here. This is the big league. So when something goes wrong, sometimes it's kind of like, whoops, oh, well, grab another blank. I'm like, what? That still hasn't, I haven't completely turned to the dark side on that yet. Every piece of wood still is important to me. So when I mess up, it still hurts. But there's a lot of mess ups here. Just because something goes wrong, the vacuum loses pressure and the body goes flying. And it happens when you make a bunch of guitars. But when I personally blow something, it sucks. I sent and then sometimes it's the little things. I forgot the contour body decal on the headstock of a guitar, and it went to Japan. And then, hey, you've left the decal off. Like, how do you miss that? That got me. And then I've got a lot of guys looking out for me. I posted a guitar on Instagram. It was a hardtail Strat. Shut down my computer, walked to my car, and we're talking 4 minutes. And I pull up my phone, and somebody says, Swift synchronized tremolo? ? I had left that part on the decals. I was like, delete, run back in. So there's still some clams. Luckily, that guy caught it within 3 minutes of me posting it, and the customer, I hope he didn't see it, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen, especially with vintage correct specs on Fenders. Oh, man. That's not really my world where I came from. There's lots of books and stuff to look it up. And luckily, Jason Smith, who's right around the corner from me, his dad was Dan Smith, right? So his whole life has been Fender. Yeah. His entire upbringing. His crib was necks, like cut off necks. So
is that a joke or actually?
No, I'm sure that's a joke. But he does comment that he had an Antigua refrigerator in his in his house, and he thinks that's where that came from. But he is an encyclopedia on specs. So if I'm never sure, I can always run it by him. But there's so many running changes, not just year to year, but month to month with Fender. You got to really be on your toes. And sometimes the floor traveler is a little vague on that. And I got to hey, what are you really after here? So I have to be careful on that, because that's not good. Sending out a neck without the decal on the headstock. How do you blow that? I don't know. I'd like to think at some point in time somebody in vintage Fender land did it too, but I'm gonna say someone absolutely did, and I'm gonna say that guitar exists and it's worth more than both of our lives put together. Planning ahead for the future for someone. That's right.
There you go.
Sending out the golden tickets. They just have to find it.
I know who to come to when I need a master built guitar now. Hey Ron, could you somehow misspell Fender? Basically, Ron, it's real world, isn't it? And there's real hands on real pieces of wood, and mistakes happen. But I guess, of course, it's a learning curve as well, a learning process.
It's a learning curve. you don't want the construction part of it to be incorrect, especially. You don't want to have one wrong fret in there or something. But it's going to happen. You just have to pay attention and try to catch it. So I joke about it. It still stings. I'll remember it forever, but it's going to happen.
Sure.
What can you do?
Not a lot, man. Nah. Okay, I know we've covered this in this conversation, but if I were to ask you, how would someone get into guitar building, and you could answer it in a simple way rather than work, what would you say for someone needing that sort of advice?
Invest in some tools, be it a router, be it a Dremel. Just get into it and get into it. Just dive in, buy a scrap body or a neck or just some raw wood and just get into it and see how you like it. See how fun it is. Watch some videos. There's lots of guitar building instruction videos out there, lots of books. But the stuff on YouTube that I've seen, there's some excellent classes that you can learn from. And give it a shot. You got to start somewhere. So dive into the wood but invest in some tools. You got to have some tools. If you don't have access to a shop or in school, try to, instead of asking for another overdrive pedal, ask for a router for Christmas or for your birthday or something.
Some people are not going to like that suggestion.
Hey, get your hands dirty. Have some fun with it. Get some splinters. But it's very rewarding. And there are guitar building schools here. There's a few. In fact, I teach the Inlay seminar at the Guitar Craft Academy in Hollywood. I've been doing that for 20 some odd years. Every semester, I see 20 students these guys are going for it. And that is good. That's reassuring to me that still some desire. But you don't have to go to a school. You can, or at least not right away. See if you're into it on your own first. And then if you do and you feel like you can't get enough tutorialship from other sources, sign up for a guitar building school and get right into it.
Thanks. I think that's great advice and
right?
very, very rewarding. Can we round this off with one final thing, Ron?
All right.
And
Suck it to me, Eddie.
We teased at the beginning that Brian May is a mutual love of ours. And for me, he inspires me. And one day I would love to build a guitar, even possibly with my dad. That would be a dream for me. Could you tell us about your collection of Brian May guilds and how that one got away?
Absolutely. So I was a big Brian May fan as a kid. It was Brian May and Eddie Van Halen. And again, they both built their own guitars. So that was biggie for me. When the first guilds came out in the 84, 85, I was 15, 16 years old, and they were $1,200, which might as well have been $12 billion for me as an unemployed kid. So I started saving, and that was my white whale, I called it, was a guild Brian May. And I finally saw one for sale. It was a paper called The Recycler. Again, pre-internet. So this was a small news sheet that came out every Thursday. And anybody in the Southern California area, I'm sure is familiar with it. And because it has musical instruments, automobiles, you name it. I've bought a lot of cars out of The Recycler back in the day, and guitars and guitar parts and necks and everything. I remember a guy coming to my house at midnight to buy a Seymour Duncan Invader pickup for $20 off of me. And I still lived at home. Like, my dad had to answer the door, and he came into my bedroom, and here's the pickup, and here's $20. Could you imagine that now? That seems so weird. But back then, that was just how you wheeled and dealed. So, Guild Brian May comes out on Thursday. Oh, wow. I go over there. It was a stereo, a car talk about dating yourself. It was a Blaupunk car stereo installation store on Van Nuys Boulevard. And I go in, and the guy selling it, his brother was in, at the time, Desert Shield. It wasn't even Desert Storm. It was a campaign before Desert Storm, Desert Shield. His brother owned the guitar, and he wanted him to sell it. So here it is. This is, I used to have the Guitar Player magazine review of the guitar cut out and taped up in my locker. And every class, right, I look at this thing, there it is. And still to this day, verbatim. with when the power booster is kicked in, its distinctive scream. This is verbiage from a review from 1985. That's how ingrained it was. The serrated edge, all these little, the guy's talking about use a coin with a serrated edge to get the distinctive scream. Oh man. So I was so into looking at this one picture of it, and here's the review. So here's the case. I open it up, and there it is. The one thing in the review, it mentions the power booster. When the power booster is engaged, and I didn't know what that meant. Like, is it one of the buttons or what? So I open the case. Here it is. I open the pocket, and I see the power booster is a pedal, a treble booster pedal. I didn't even put that together, and oh, it's beautiful. I look at it. Serial number 154. Oh, this is gorgeous. Okay, all right. I get paid tomorrow because it's Thursday. I get paid tomorrow. I'll be back. All right. So you already know where the story's going. I dream of it. Sugar plums dance in my head. I get there the next day with my buddy. I'm just stoked. The dad answers the door of the Blaupunk stereo. He's like, somebody came and bought it. And just this sinking feeling like, what? My buddy, he starts mouthing off, he's mouthing, just crushed. And the first thing I think of is, well, who did you sell it to? Maybe I could buy it off of. Like, what an idiot. No way. So, boom, it's gone. Like, out of my life, I'm crushed. It took 2 more years before another one came up in the recycler again. And I remember calling the guy like, hello, is it still? I'll take it. Like, what? You haven't even seen it. Doesn't even matter. I'll take it. I'll be right over. Don't answer the phone. Don't do anything. I'm coming over. All right. I finally get one. And then the obsession starts. I must have them all. And I keep buying. And now I can afford them, so I'm just going crazy. Craigslist comes around. Now the internet's in the mix. Craigslist comes around. The old Brian May guitar. Local. Okay. I call Pat. I call him. Hey, yeah. All right. I cruise over. It's Silver Lake. It's 15 minutes away. I get there, knock on the door. The guy answers the door, and it's Pat Smears. All right. I know you're a big Brian May fan. I didn't expect this. He invites me in. I kick it on the couch. We're hanging. We're chatting. Pat Smears, this is crazy. He brings out the guitar, pops it open. Okay. 154. I can't. And I just like, no way. Now the gears are I'm like, did you get this from a guy in a car stereo? Yeah, it was on Van Nuys Boulevard. Oh, wait. And I tell him the whole story, and he's blown away, so we're hugging, and he's saying it's now our guitar because we were both meant to have it. I mean, it was unbelievable. So Pat Smears and I own this Brian May guitar as far as we're both concerned. And he gave me some albums that he used and recorded some tunes on it with, but talk about life is complete now. Man. There we have it. So yes, I've collected the whole set. Needless to say, it's an obsessive. I don't even really like how they play. The nets are so wide. I don't even like them. But I just no. I just obsess over them now, and I just keep hoarding them. It's horrible. It's a bad. I don't even know what's going to happen with them at some point. I'm going to be long gone.
It's an illness. It's an illness, my friend.
It is. I can't stop. You can't stop once you get going.
No, I'm there with you, and long may it continue. However, if one were to fall my way, I'd happily, punch you to the floor before you could get to
it. You and Pat will have to do a round.
Yeah.
That's great.
What a great way to end our conversation, Ron. That was, again, another echo of the passion and the joy that guitars bring you, and you bring other people by making them. Thank you so much for your time.
Sure thing, Andy. Great. Thank you for the chat. It was good. And we got to do this again, either in person at some point in time or whenever. And if you want to talk about neck pockets and intonation, I'm available on that too one of these days.
Well, I'll make sure my son's awake and available, and
give him some tips.
Get some training in. And if you ever need to be able to chisel something out with a screwdriver, then he's your guy. So
perfect.
You can help you out as well. Again, Ron, thank you so much, and thank you to Fender for lending you to me for the afternoon. And I guess you got to go make some guitars.
I got to wrap that up for Adrian. Got to get on it. Thanks,
Best
Andy.
luck. I hope he enjoys it. Cheers,
All
man.
right. Cheers, buddy. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much to Ron and, of course, to Fender. Thanks to you also for watching to the end, which means you are a member of the End of the Video Club, to prove that you are a member of this prestigious elite. Whenever you're leaving your comment down there and saying hi to Ron and leaving him some love, please also include the word that is the name of the guitar he built that he's most proud of. You know, the one that was inspired by those New York Ghostbuster type buildings. All right. I have many other videos on screen right now. I hope that you can go and watch them, and I will see you there. My name's Andy. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.